the Nicholas Copernicus, John Kepler, everyone spoke about the planets, okay? They were completely into the astrophysics, that is, they were talking about the solar system, planets, all these things. The physics originated from a Greek word called as physis, because of which the word came into existence as physics. Unification means unifying certain terms and reduction means reducing certain terms. Hello everyone, I'm Brinda, Faculty of Physics from Vidhyaashram School of Excellence, Mysuru, welcoming you all to session 1 of chapter 1, and chapter name is Physical World. So in today's class, I'm going to explain about the Physical World chapter, that means which is a basic to basic concept of your class 11 physics subject, okay? So here, first of all, we are going to study about the basics. In case of this basics, what is science is a question. First of all, we are getting down to the base foundation of what is science. So science means it has originated from a Latin word called as scientia. Okay, it has originated from a Latin word, which means to say the meaning is scientia. So the Sanskrit word is known as Vignan, Scientia, Vignan. That means to say it is a knowledge, to know. Science means it is always to know, to get to know, to understand. These are the sequences, okay? So it originated from a Latin word called as Scientia, which means to say that, to know, which means knowledge. And the other word for science from the Sanskrit can be called as Vignan, okay? And Arabic word, it is nothing but ilm. So these three words are very important for your MCQs. So your Latin word scientia or Sanskrit word Vignan or Arabic word ilm means it is science, okay? So now, science, it is a systematic attempt to understand the natural phenomenon in detail, okay? It is like each and every study has got certain steps. That is why it is called as systematic study, in order to know any consequences which occur in this nature, okay? So now, coming to how exactly these scientists found out certain events which occurs in nature, they discovered, they introduced some concepts. How was it? For example, we can just take the Nicholas Copernicus, John Kepler, everyone spoke about the planets, okay? They were completely into the astrophysics, that is, they were talking about the solar system, planets, all these things. So in that, first consequences was made by Nicholas Copernicus, that is nothing but planets move in a circular orbit with sun at the center, which was studied under heliocentric theory. That means the sun is at the center and the planets are revolving around the sun, which means to say that it is orbiting in a circular path. That is called as heliocentric theory, which was introduced by Nicholas Copernicus. After as days passed, okay, there was other scientists, upcoming scientists, who just gave that the circular orbits of the planets around the sun was replaced by elliptical orbit. So it was called that the planets revolve around the sun in an elliptical orbit, and it was told by John Kepler by making use of the data which was collected by Tycho Brahe. Okay, so this is how exactly each and every scientist, as days passed by, they were just disproving the experiments which was made by the previous scientist. This is how exactly the science came into existence. That is, science is not always that whatever we have studied earlier in the history or in the past is being considered as true. As days passes by, experiments are conducted day by day, and any proving or disproving of the experiments will prove the past details or the data collected in the past history as wrong, okay? So this is how exactly the science goes on, okay? It is always we are attempting a new phenomenon to introduce into our nature, okay? So next is coming to physics. How exactly in the science there was an existence of physics is a question. So exactly it was like, first of all, the physics is a Greek word, okay? And that Greek word is nothing but physis or physis, okay? So it is nothing but the nature, okay? Physis is nothing but nature. Okay, so now the physics originated from a Greek word called as physis, because of which the word came into existence as physics. In Sanskrit, it was known as Bhautaki, which means to say that it is nature, which you can see over here. So this is all about the physics. Like physics means nature. That means in our nature, there is existence of physics, biology, chemistry, all three together. So we can see science around us. On the whole, we can say that we can see the science around us. Okay, but it's our duty to study only about the physics subject right now. That is why I'm mentioning even in nature there is physics, which we actually have to look for to understand the physics in a better way. Physics is not actually tough. Many of you feel that physics is tough, but physics is not at all tough. It is very easiest subject when you make friendship with the natural physics. Understood? So next is, in physics, we study the main concepts are like unification and reduction. Unification means unifying certain terms and reduction means reducing certain terms. That is, in case of unification, if you consider electricity, if you consider magnetism, both together, that is moving charges produces electricity, yes, and the same moving charges produces magnetic field as well. So electric field and magnetic field both occur together at right angles to each other. So unifications mean unifying the electricity and magnetism together to give you electromagnetic effect. This is exactly what we study in unification. When it comes to reduction, you're reducing it. So you can see about the fission reaction, etc. Okay. So this is all about the unification and reduction process, what exactly we study. Next, we can just go on to the development of theory, that is the physical theory. Any theory, whatever we study, any theory, whatever we understand. Okay. So the development of this theory leads to new discoveries and practical works, which is called as experiments. That is what you do in lab practicals. Whatever theory you study in your first PUC, the same thing you go and apply in your lab practicals in order to prove that theory, whatever you studied, and to understand it in a better way. Similarly, in your class 12 also, whenever you just go and study anything regarding the theoretical concept, the same thing is put into your lab practicals, and there also you study the proving of the theory, whatever you study in class 12. Understood? So the same way in science, that is in physics, certain theories were developed which led to the new discoveries by proving it and with the help of the practical events. Okay. So next we have certain branches of physics what we actually study, that is mechanics, thermodynamics, electrodynamics, atomic and nuclear physics. In that, mechanical physics or mechanics involves laws of motion, movement, displacement, velocity. All these things are included under mechanics, whereas thermodynamics is the one. Thermo, the first word itself tells that it involves the heat, temperature, all these concepts of the physics. And third one is electrodynamics. Electrodynamics is the one, the first word back again resembles the electro, means something more about the electricity, electrons, all these concepts we study like charges, etc. And fourth concept is atomic. That means we study about atoms, nuclei, half-life of certain chemical compounds, all those things. And next it is nuclear physics, the same thing, like it is a continuity of this atomic physics chapter. That is, in nuclear physics we study about the radiations and all sort of radiations, emissions, energy levels, all these things will be studied. You will get to know better whenever you study as particularly as a chapters. Okay, so that is all about like physics. It includes certain things. Along with this, it includes even more and more number of things like astrophysics and many other. Okay, so you can see few of the images here, what exactly we study about the temperature, about the electricity, about the nuclear, about the atoms and electrons, about the thermodynamics, completely about the temperature, that is heat energy, fusion, fission reaction, and mechanics, where you study this Newton's law, laws of momentum, etc. Okay, so now let us get into this chapter deeply. So first of all, whenever there was a theory, some scientists studied those theory and invented the practical image of it. Okay, similar way, the study of thermodynamics, it led into the invention of steam engine. So the theoretical base or the theoretical foundation gave into the existence of the steam engine. Similar way, next you have discovery of basic law of electricity, that also led into development of wireless communications. Okay, so it's not like as days pass by, we stay in the same history or same past. We just modernize ourselves in order to create a better equipment, okay, for the daily life or for the use in a modern life. Okay, so next we have discovery of neutrons induced fission of uranium, which serves as a basic component for nuclear power reactors and bombs. Okay, so always we look into the fission reaction in order to create the bombs. So discovery of those theoretical things gave into the inventions of wireless communication, might be steam engine. All these are the equipments for the better life of the modernized life. Okay, next is study of this photoelectric effect. It led to the understanding of the photocell working, which converts this radiation energy into electrical energy. Where can you see this? Solar street lights, etc. And radiation energy getting converted to heat energy can be found in your solar water heaters, that is solar cells. Okay, so next is we are going on to fundamental forces in nature. So we have certain 4 forces in nature. That is the very important thing where you have to remember. The 4 fundamental forces in nature are gravitational force, electromagnetic force, strong nuclear force, and weak nuclear force. Okay, so gravitational force is the one force which is used in case of this gravity. Okay, electromagnetic force, the force which occurs between the 2 conductors when there is a flow of charges, and when there is equivalently when there is presence of this magnetic field. Okay, so the same electromagnetic force, it not only occurs between the conductors, it is also present in case of the earth as well. Natural force. Next is strong nuclear force. It is the strong nuclear force, and finally it is the weak nuclear force. Both are the nuclear forces which occur in nature. Clear? So we have 4 fundamental forces in nature: gravitational, electromagnetic force, strong nuclear force, weak nuclear force. So we have to give it the order wise. Okay, in the decreased order we will just give, that is first very much stronger than any other forces in nature will be strong nuclear force, then comes the electromagnetic force, then it is weak nuclear force, and finally it is the gravitational force, wherein this gravitational force is considered to be the weakest force in nature, and strong nuclear force is nothing but the strongest force in nature. Okay, so that is all about your 4 fundamental forces in nature, what you have to learn, and very important concept as well. Okay, in physics you even get into the conservation laws, something called as conservation. What is meant by conservation? So conservation means incoming is equal to outgoing, which is equal to 0. That means there is certain work which is done, but at the final point when we look into that work done, it is said to be 0. Okay, so that is what we actually learn here. That is conserved quantities, physical quantities which remains unchanged in physical process. Okay, it is such kind of a quantity are known as conserved quantity which remains unchanged in certain process. Okay, so law that governs these quantities are known as conservation laws. Okay, so we know that there are few conservation laws. So let us get into which are those. Okay, so certain conservation laws are law of conservation of linear momentum, which you will study in your next chapters. Again, law of conservation of angular momentum. Whenever you study regarding the circular velocity, you study this law of conservation of angular momentum. Next is law of conservation of total energy, law of conservation of mass, and law of conservation of electrical energy. So these are the conservation laws which we study in each and every steps of the physics chapters, and maybe your class 11 or class 12, in both the classes also you get through all these conservation of laws. Okay, so next we have physical world and measurement. In this we can see how many scientists have given the important discoveries, the scientist name and their important discoveries. It's not only like they have discovered one or two concepts, but only one or two concepts are given here, but they are very important discoveries which is having that fame is being given over here. So you can see Archimedes, he introduced the principle of buoyancy, which means to say that it is the upward push for an object. Galileo Galilei, he gave the law of inertia, and he also discovered the telescope, which will be studying in later concepts. Isaac Newton, he gave the law of mechanics, gravitational, and about the reflecting telescopes. Benjamin Franklin, he gave about the theory of electricity and lightning. Michael Faraday gave the explanation about the electric motor. He just, by giving certain concepts of the electricity and magnetism, he introduced a dynamo as well as transformers. And then you have James Clerk Maxwell. He gave the introduction to electromagnetic theory of light. Thomas Edison, thermionic emission. Henrik Rudolf Hertz gave radio waves as well as the photoelectric effect. William Röntgen, X-rays. Henry Becquerel, radioactivity. J.J. Thomson about the electrons. Likewise, you have n number of scientists giving n number of discoveries. Wherein you will have to note down all these discoveries because these are the main important discoveries which sometimes they ask for the MCQs or in the exam of one-word questions. And then you have Max Planck, Albert Einstein and their discoveries. There is scientist and here it is discoveries as well. Here also you can see the same. Okay, so I hope you understood today's conceptual classes about the chapter 1, that is physical world, which comes under unit 1. So I hope you're clear with what is meant by science. By Latin word it originated. What is meant by physics? It originated from a Greek word which means to say that it is nature. And what exactly does this physics contains about unification, reduction, as well as the conservation laws, etc. Let us all meet in our next class in the upcoming session of chapter 2, that is units and measurement. Until then, have a good day. Thank you.